So, hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to our Midwife Live Talk. This session is recorded. I'm Anna, your moderator. I'm a mom of two, and I'm very thrilled to have you here for another important conversation. Karin, who is usually my co host and our wonderful midwife, is not joining today because of the time difference to Lagos, Nigeria. A couple of weeks ago, we already had a talk about car seat safety for children. And today we're diving into a topic that's equally crucial for expecting parents and families who travel. So, our topic today is car safety in pregnancy and airplane safety for babies and children. So, whether you're driving to your next prenatal appointment or planning a family trip, safety is key, and we're here to help you navigate it with confidence. So, this Zoom event will last anything between 30 minutes and 1 hour, and we want to make it as interactive as possible. So you can switch on your camera and microphone at any time, or if you're feeling shy, post your questions in the chat and I will read them out to our experts. This is your chance to ask questions and get real practical advice, so please use it. I feel so lucky to have two incredible experts joining us today who are based out of the US. It's Leah Tuso, a certified child passenger safety technician who's specializing in aviation safety, and she's also a really cool travel influencer. I'm following her on Instagram, and I'll share the details later. She will share her expertise on airplane safety for kids, including how to safely use a car seat on flight. And other expert is Greg Colton. He is an emergency medical technician and a community outreach captain for UC Health, and he will guide us on the proper seatbelt use during pregnancy to keep mums and babies safe in the car. So let's get started. I think, Greg, if you could please introduce yourself and explain a little bit what you do, and if you could start, that would be great. And then afterwards, we'll come to all the interesting aviation topics with.
Sounds good. So my name is Greg Colton. I'm the Community Outreach Captain for UC Health EMS, or University of Colorado Health EMS, or Emergency Medical Services, and I'm in Colorado. And I was going to talk to you a little bit about safety, vehicle safety for pregnant occupants. So wearing your seatbelt correctly, all those kinds of things while pregnant. So let me see if I can share my screen successfully. We'll see how this goes. All right. Let's try this. All right. And all right. Does everyone see
Yes, perfect.
a slide? It should just be someone standing next to their car. Awesome. So last time they talked about car seats and stuff. So we'll talk about vehicle safety even before your baby is born. Babies are actually, based on data from the US, babies are actually 20 times safer in a car seat than they are before they're born. So it's super important to be wearing your seatbelt, and it's super important to wear it correctly. We found that proper seatbelt use can reduce adverse fetal outcomes, so injuries, anything like that, by up to 84%. So it's super easy. Just wear your seatbelt and you can increase that safety hugely there. There's a ton of evidence that seatbelts are helpful. This is the list of all the studies I found that show that seatbelts are helpful for pregnant drivers and passengers. You don't have to try to read all of that. It's just to kind of show you how much evidence there is. I had to use size 8 font to even get it on the same slide. But if you want to read through all this stuff for yourself, you can look at it on my website, and I'll show you guys the website and stuff, so you can look there and read through all that if you'd like to. And then there's also a lot of evidence that airbags are helpful too. There aren't quite as many studies. The slide doesn't look as impressive, but we have tons of evidence that seatbelts and airbags are helpful for pregnant occupants. But even though we know that from the perspective of people who research this and do vehicle safety stuff, about 40% of pregnant drivers and passengers are still hesitant about their seatbelt and think that it might not be helpful for them, or it could even be a bit harmful for them. And that, so we want to be reassuring that like they really are helpful. They really are going to help you out. There is a little bit of evidence that using your seatbelt incorrectly can be risky. So it's important both to wear your seatbelt just in general, but then also wear it correctly. So they found that if you're wearing your lap belt too high up on your belly, like the stock photo model in this photo is, there's actually a 50 times increased chance of placental abruption. That's the injury that hurts unborn babies the most in crashes. So really important to make sure that you're both wearing your seatbelt and you're wearing it correctly. And if we're talking about how to wear it correctly, that might make you wonder how many people do wear their seatbelt correctly. And based on seatbelt checks that have been done, we found that only 15% of pregnant vehicle occupants wear their seatbelt and adjust their vehicle seat correctly. So definitely an area where there's a big room for improvement because of the 85% of people that weren't wearing their seatbelt correctly, I mean, most of them figured they were. So you might be thinking like, oh, I probably wear my seatbelt correctly, but there's a chance you might not be. So very important to make sure you're wearing your seatbelt correctly. For your seatbelt, all what you want to do is you want to put the lap belt all the way underneath the curve of your belly, so it's resting on your hips. And then you want to have the shoulder belt to the side of your belly and across the center of your chest and your collarbone. And then you want to sit in a comfortable upright position. If you lean back a bunch, that can make the lap belt wander up your belly and the shoulder belt will hit your shoulders nicely. And then you want to sit as upright as you can. Definitely if it's getting just too uncomfortable to sit up all the way straight or it's distracting while you're driving or something, you can lean back some if you need to. Just try to do it only as much as you have to. Then you want to adjust your seat so you can, if you're driving, so you can press the brake pedal all the way down to the floor with the ball of your foot on the pedal. And you want to be able to grab the top of the steering wheel with your arms still slightly bent. I'll show you, there's a trick. So what's up?
Do you recommend to have a little bit more of a distance to the steering wheel, or that's not so?
So the best way to keep your belly from bumping into the steering wheel is to not be in a crash. And the best way to do that is to make sure that you can brake effectively and that you can steer effectively. So even if there's only, a few centimeters of space between your belly and the steering wheel, we don't have any science that shows us like what a safe distance is that, like 5 centimeters is too close, 10 centimeters is far enough, something like that. We don't know. We do know that you need to have about 25 centimeters of space between the airbag and your chest. And that's just true for everybody. But as far as how close your belly is to the wheel, we don't have any good info on what that should be. But the big thing is just to make sure that you can still safely control the vehicle. So yeah.
Fiona, I just muted you. Did you have a question? I don't want to mute you if you wanted to ask something. Oh, okay, Greg, please go ahead. Sorry.
So, and then, so one thing, the most common thing we see is that the lap belt's just a little bit too high up on someone's belly. And so there's a trick that we found from working with a bunch of different pregnant drivers and passengers. So on the left, you can see that's my friend who just buckled up with the lap belt just normally across her lap, and it's still riding up on her belly a little bit. And then you can see on the right, she's got it all the way under her belly and resting on her hips. So if she's in a sudden stop, all that force would be going to her hips and not across her belly there. And I've got a little video on how to do that. Well, so you can see. So what she does is she takes the seat belt, takes the lap belt, and takes like the center 3 or 4 inches of it, and then slides it, flips it back towards herself, and then slides it up underneath the curve of her belly, and then tucks it in there. She kind of has to lift her belly a little bit too, and then it sits in there much more comfortably, and also not putting that force across her belly in a crash. And that's a big thing that that often will keep people from wearing their seatbelt while they're pregnant, is just that it's uncomfortable. And so this can hopefully make it a little bit more comfortable for when you're in the car and things like that. So, and it's super important to wear your seatbelt. There's a study actually done in Hong Kong that found that about 76% of pregnant women wore their seatbelt before they were pregnant, And then as their pregnancy went on, they actually wore their seatbelt less and less. And by third trimester, only 67% of women were wearing their seatbelt at all. So we want to make sure that people are wearing their seatbelt so they can keep both themselves and their baby as safe as they can be.
Yes, also when I was pregnant and riding a taxi in Hong Kong, some very friendly old taxi drivers advised me not to wear the seatbelt because I'm pregnant. But obviously that is wrong. Greg, maybe
Yes.
also say, I think even if you're not pregnant, the correct seatbelt wearing of the lap belt section is to be like kind of like on your upper thighs, right? Rather than over your abdomen. Like it should never be on your abdomen, right? This
Exactly. So it's kind of funny, like we call it the lap belt, and then you think about how often it's actually like up on someone's stomach instead, but you actually want it down kind of on your hips and across the upper part of your thighs, because what the purpose of the lap belt is that where you're in a crash or a sudden stop, it's pushing all the force of that onto the strong bone groups that are in your hips and not across all the soft parts of your stomach. So if it's up too high, for pregnant people, obviously, if it's up too high, it'll be pushing against your baby. But even for everyone else, if it's up too high, it's going to press on all of your, intestines and soft organs and stuff there that don't take force very well, instead of being down on those strong bone groups in your pelvis that take force a lot better. It's the same reason that we want to make sure kids ride in booster seats. We often think about that with kids in booster seats and then forget that adults need the seatbelt to fit properly too. And one thing, especially using like a lot of taxis and ride shares and stuff, you might be sitting in the back seat more often. And we found that the shoulder belts in back seats don't fit people as well as they do in the front seats of cars. So that's something to keep an eye out is how the shoulder belt's fitting you. And sometimes you might even need to ride like in the center seat if there's a lap and shoulder belt in the center seat, because that might fit you a little bit better. And because sometimes the way the shoulder belts are anchored into cars, it'll be kind of in front of a person's shoulder and there'll be a big gap, or might be rubbing up against the side of their neck, things like that, especially with pregnant passengers, because sometimes their belly can push the shoulder belt to the side. And so then it's rubbing up against their neck even more than it would have before. So. And one thing you'll see sometimes too, they'll advertise these seatbelt adjusters for pregnant passengers and or pregnant drivers too. And a lot of them are these like hooks that strap to the seat, and you put the lap belt through it, or there's ones that buckle around the lap belt, things like that. It sounds like a nice idea because it's moving the lap belt away from your belly, but they're actually super dangerous. We don't know what these are going to do in a crash. A lot of them say they're crash tested, but they don't publish any like information about the crash tests or results or anything. So we don't know if they really are tested. And a lot of them are just made of like flimsy plastic and things like that we're not really, it doesn't seem like it'd be really as strong as the seatbelt in a crash. And we have tons of evidence that seatbelts help. We had that whole slide with the tiny, tiny font. So we know the seatbelts are going to help you. We have no idea what these are going to do. But what we do know is that the seatbelt's meant to be up on your hips, not way out across your legs like it is with that thing there. So if you see those advertised or someone buys one for you or something, we don't recommend using those. Just keeping the lap belt up under your belly is the best way to go.
Okay, thank you, Greg, because that was going to be one of my questions because I've seen them advertised and yeah, okay, good to know. Thank you, Greg.
Of course. Awesome. That was all the main talking points I had. So if anybody has questions, or we're going to hear from Leah about aeroplanes and things.
Any questions so far? Don't be shy. We're here to help. Any listeners have questions?
I actually have a question for you, Greg. So,
Yeah.
if I have a girlfriend who's pregnant and maybe she's expecting her first and she's not quite sure how to wear her seatbelt, who do I tell her to talk to about, keeping her baby safe in her belly when she's pregnant?
You can always give her my info. Oh, let me see. I've lost track of where all my screens went to. Okay, hold on. There we go. Goodness. So you can always give her my info if you'd like to. Or there's a website, which thanks for reminding me to point that out. So let me pull that up. So I don't know if you can see the website
Right.
here, but there's a website I put together that's got tons of info. So it's got how to wear your seatbelt while you're pregnant, and it's got that list of evidence for that seatbelts and airbags will help you and stuff. It's got frequently asked questions too, info about those adjusters, and then it's got what to do on other modes of travel, like airplanes, for instance, how to wear your seatbelt there. So, so yeah, they can go, you can, people can go here and it's got tons of different info and it's got pictures and videos, and hopefully we're going to make some new pictures and videos that'll be even better than the ones that we've got on there now. So stay tuned for that. But yes, so it's hcpvs.org, which it sounded easier than when I first made the website. It's actually kind of hard to tell people and remember that, but that's or Hudson Center for Prenatal Vehicle Safety. So people can look there. And then there's also a contact us. So if people have more questions, they can give me a shout. The contact us goes straight to me and I'll answer people's questions or give them tips and advice. Or if people have feedback, if they're just like, they have ideas and tricks they found that help them, things like that. I'm always looking for more info and stuff because I've never personally been pregnant or worn a seatbelt while pregnant. So, good to get info from people. So yeah.
Thank you, Greg.
Very good.
Hudson Center for Prenatal Vehicle Safety into the chat box, but maybe you could also put the URL in there for people to.
Yes.
Anna, I do have a question for Greg. Yes. Hi, Greg. This is Heidi.
Hi, buddy.
Can you talk about the use of lap-only belts? Many of the vehicles that are rideshare vehicles in Hong Kong have lap-only belts in the center.
Yeah. So ideally, if you had the choice, like if you're in a car and you had like a lap belt, a lap only belt in the center seat and a lap and shoulder belt in the side seat, ideally you'd want to use a lap and shoulder belt if you had the option. So the most common thing that hurts unborn babies in crashes is what's called placental abruption. So that's where the placenta comes off the wall of the uterus. And one of the things that can cause that is when the upper body goes forward in a crash, that presses down on the uterus, and that pressure can cause a placental abruption. So you want your upper body to stay in place as much as possible. So if you had the option of a shoulder belt, even if it didn't fit quite right, that'd be a better option than just a lap belt. So yeah, but if you only have a lap belt available, like that's just all that vehicle has, that's definitely going to help you a lot more than just not having a seatbelt at all. So definitely use what you have available. If you have a lap belt, go for it. If you have a lap and shoulder belt, even better. So just whatever you've got available, and make sure you're using it every time. I know sometimes, like as soon as you get in a taxi, they're driving before you even have the door shut, but just try to get your seatbelt on and stuff. So great question.
Thank you so much, Greg. Yeah, feel free to continue asking Greg questions. Let's move to you, Leah. So many parents are unsure when they're flying with their little one. Summer's coming up, so there's actually a lot of traveling about to happen. Our next Midwife Live Talk will be about how to survive, flying or traveling with kids. And so this is perfect timing. So when you are on an airplane, usually, can you explain to us what is usually the practice? What is done with lap holding, smaller kids, and then just walk us through.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anna, thank you so much for having me. And thank you for everybody who's logged in now and is watching this after the fact. What I'll do is I'll share some slides and I'll go over what the recommendations are, a little introduction on myself, and kind of what best practices for safe air travel when you're flying with your family. So I'll start by sharing my slide here, and I'm going to go to share here and present. And then please let me know if you can see this, Anna, here. Okay, great.
Yes.
So Perfect. Thank you. So my name's Leah Tuso. I am a certified child passenger safety technician, but I'm also a frequent flyer and a travel mom. So what I do now is I work with families all over the world, flying all over the world every day to help make their travels safer and more convenient, less stressful. There are so many tips and tricks to know and to learn about how you can navigate your travels in a safe manner, but also a convenient one as well. So, how did I get into this? Well, I was a child passenger safety technician first, and then I had my son, and I very vividly remember sitting with my son, and I was feeding him. Probably he was 2 months old, and I Googled, "Can I bring my car seat on the airplane?" I had no idea if you could bring a car seat on the airplane or how I would check it or send it. All I knew is that I had to bring it to my destination because I needed to drive in a passenger vehicle where I was going. So that's how I got started, and here I am today. It's been a fun journey for me. So what I want to talk to the group about today is really what are the recommendations? So a lot of people will travel and they say we don't see car seats on airplanes as much as we should. Traveling, having a child sit in their car seat on the airplane is the safest option for them. The aircraft flat belt is intended for adults. So, the International Civil Aviation Organization actually recommends that children use a car seat on the airplane until they're approximately 7 years old or 49 inches tall. And we think, oh my goodness, that sounds crazy. A 7-year-old sitting in a car seat on an airplane. Well, there are a lot of things that go into it, but we do have the research and the data to support that height limit there. So we do want to encourage approximately age 7, which is when the average child is going to be 49 inches tall. This snippet here that I have here at the bottom, this is actually from the Civil Aviation Department of Hong Kong. So they do mention child restraint use. It's not as explicit as some of the other aviation organizations across the world, but I just wanted to point that out because we are talking to a Hong Kong-based group that they do acknowledge that child restraint systems are very important, and then that they also do adhere to the International Civil Aviation Organization's recommendations. So the Civil Aviation Department of Hong Kong is in agreement and in alignment that children should be using a car seat on board the airplane as well. Here in the United States, we have.
I think whenever I fly, I don't think I've ever seen. I think I have actually never seen anyone bring their car seat on the airplane. I have considered it many times. I have once seen someone bring like a harness. Oh, what's it called? I think probably know which one I'm talking to.
This one, the CARES harness.
Yeah, exactly, the CARES harness, and then the flight attendants didn't allow it to be installed. I don't remember which airline this was though. So
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
watched that and was like, okay, note taken. So
absolutely. Well, you bring up two very, very important things that we should talk about. And the first is that the flight attendants aren't always well versed on this, which is a huge challenge that parents face when they do try to adhere to the recommendations. They get on the airplane and then they're oftentimes met with flight attendants who don't understand what best practice are, or they don't understand what their regulations actually are. So that's a big challenge that we have to combat every day. And as parents, really the only thing that we can do in those situations is file a complaint with the airline and the aviation authority. And so hopefully that aviation authority can then allocate resources back to flight attendant education. But it's a challenge that we have to face. So there are ways to mitigate those risks. So I'll get to that in a little bit. But as far as what the United States recommends, they actually just updated their recommendation for the first time in decades, about 4 weeks ago now. So they just recommend that we use a car seat per the manufacturer guidelines. They no longer have a weight limit or a weight recommendation rather. Historically, it was 40 pounds. then the child can use the aircraft lap belt. They have removed that any language that insinuates that children are safe to use the aircraft lap belt after 40 pounds, because we know that that's no longer accurate based on the most recent research that we have. So Transport Canada also says 49 inches, approximately age 7. Australia has one of my favorite recommendations, which is once a child outgrows their forward-facing harness in a vehicle, then they are safe to use the aircraft lap belt. So all across the globe, we have these wonderful recommendations that children should be using a car seat on board. But in real life practice, the airlines are very behind the times. Their own policies don't always reflect this. And although here in the US domestically, they do a pretty good job with it, when you're traveling on international airlines, we run into a lot of problems. And so we just have to work together and prepare for your flight. So here's a little slide that I put together on how parents and caregivers can prepare for their flights. The first and most important thing is to review the airline policies before you book that ticket. If you are prioritizing child safety and you're wondering how you can fly with your car seat, it's really important to understand if your airline will even allow you to use the car seat that you want for your child. And so what I want to do—
CRS stands for Child Restraint System.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I had a note to point that out and I forgot to point it out. So thank you, Anna. So what I want to do is actually go over to Cathay Pacific's page right here. So this is a popular Hong Kong-based airline. It's a very popular airline. Can you see it here on my page?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So when I say the first thing we want to do is look at the airline's website to review their policies on child restraint seats. A lot of times you're going to find really valuable information before you even book your ticket. And so right here, I just want to point out, Cathay has really good information. So I'm using this as an example, but car seats can be used for children between 0 and 36 months, under 3 years old. So if you have a squirmy 4-year-old toddler, you're not going to be able to bring their car seat on board this specific airline. They're also going to point out different business classes, economy classes, where maybe you won't be able to accommodate your child restraint system, and then any other details that you need to know about their policies regarding car seat use. One of the things that we like to always look at is whether or not a rear-facing car seat is permitted on board. So Cathay says rear-facing child restraint systems are permitted if it's not going to cause any disruption to the passenger in front. This is a very common language that we see in international airlines. This is absolutely the diehard opposite of how it is in the United States. In the United States, no passenger's comfort overrides another passenger's safety. So rear-facing car seats are really common on US domestic-based airlines, but when you're flying on international airlines, you might not be able to bring your rear-facing car seat at all. So when you are preparing for your flight, it's important to do that due diligence there. And it's usually pretty easy. You can just Google your airline child restraint system or airline plus car seat, and you'll find the right page.
And it's important
After
to note
you—
that usually each airline has different policies, right? So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's very important to look at their specific policies before you book, because like Anna said, they're not all the same. And then after you book, speak with a child passenger safety technician. There are thousands of us across the globe, and we're all ready and happy to help. Review the logistics of not just your child, but also your trip and your itinerary. So we can make sure that, we can even review the airline's policies with you. We can make sure that the car seat you're interested in using for your child is an appropriate car seat, that it's permitted for use on aircraft, and that it will be pretty easy to install at your destination if you're traveling in a ride share or a rental car. And so that's another really important resource to keep in mind while you're preparing, that there are professionals who are able to help with all of these logistics here. The third thing I always like to remind caregivers is to practice your installation at home before you travel, especially if you're planning to use your car seat on board an aircraft. You're going to be looking at a lap only installation, a lap belt only. So no shoulder belts on an aircraft, just the lap belt. And that might vary from your typical everyday installation. So your user manual will be your best friend in that situation. And you can practice it in your own vehicle at home so you're confident and you're comfortable when the day comes. And then lastly, I always like to remind caregivers also, bring the documents with you. Bring your car seat user manual on board the aircraft with you, because as Anna said, sometimes the flight attendants don't understand the regulations. They don't understand the car seat installation. So when you have that car seat user manual and you're able to present it to the flight attendant, it gives you that ground to stand on. And again, you'll feel more confident, you'll feel more comfortable. The other thing I always like to tell people is to just make sure you screenshot the airline policies on your phone. Because again, if a flight attendant doesn't understand their own company policies, it's really good to just have that prepared and say, oh, but your website says rear facing is allowed, because unfortunately that does happen more often than not. So all of these things said, it seems like it's daunting, it seems overwhelming. It's not, it's really simple. So, and like I said, there are people here to help and make it a lot more convenient for you. So reach out. There are a lot of different resources available to you. As Anna said, I'm on Instagram, so I do share kind of tips and tricks there. I have a free ebook. This was written with the Federal Aviation Administration here in the United States. Their cabin safety team reviewed it. Actually, Heidi Heflin reviewed it with me. So she's on this call here. So it's a great free resource for parents to learn more about flying with a car seat, but also what the risks of in-lap infants are. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then I have the United States here, EASA, which is the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, Transport Canada, and then Australia's Flying with Children, page 2. These are all links that I'll put in the chat also for you. So these are the links that I'm referencing here. There's Flying with Children pages that every country has in Europe. And it's just really helpful information to read through if you want to spend some time browsing that, just to understand a little bit more about the regulations that are in place for you. I do have a couple, let me see, stop share. I do have a couple of fun things behind me. I thought maybe I would share.
Yes, please show
Okay.
us. Show us all the goodies.
So,
please.
yes. So what I'm going to show you are their popular child restraint systems here in the United States. Unfortunately, you can't get these in Hong Kong, but you will definitely see them in travel groups or in car seat groups. And so starting with this FAA CARES harness. Now, this is a child restraint harness that is available to be used on the airplane. It is not for the vehicle. In fact, there's a little sign here that says no vehicle. It's great for the purpose that it serves. It's a little bit challenging to use. It goes 22 to 44 pounds and under 40 inches, which is a very finite amount of time in a child's growth. It's like 1.5 to 3 years old, about, give or take, for the typically developing child. But it's good. It's pretty easy to install. It's challenging to use because it does require a child to maintain an upright position throughout the duration of use. And so for toddlers who like to relax and lounge around and kind of get comfortable in that airplane seat, it can present a challenge just to make sure that they're maintaining an upright position. I also have a very detailed two YouTubes on this, so I can send that information over as well. If you're considering using this for your child, I've got more information.
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm seeing we're getting a couple questions. So, okay, I'm going to read through these questions. Before I want to do that, I'll show you here this one too. This is the Wavy Pico. This is a little bit more expensive, but this is a foldable car seat here. It's popular here in the US. But it folds like, oh, let me make sure it's all taken apart. These are all products that I've used with my own child. So there we go. So it folds like this, and then it fits into a backpack. It's only 8 pounds. It's very lightweight. And that's another one. The only downside to this is that it's forward facing only, and it's typically outgrown 2, 3, 4, 4.5, 5 years old. But it depends on the child for that. Thank you, Anna, for sharing these links.
So the Wavy Pico, I saw that I can actually order it on Amazon to be delivered to Hong Kong.
Oh,
Just
great.
that, it's for some reason much more expensive. Yeah. So there's even like there's more of a markup. But there are ways. So, maybe
that's good to know. It's good to know. And
agent or something like that. And
especially because I feel like there are so many, there's expats and there's people from all over in Hong Kong. So I feel like there's a lot of coming and going and traveling, and so that's a great seat to have if somebody could get their hands on it, and it fits their child's age, weight, height, developmental maturity level. It's a good travel seat when it's used correctly. So I also have the very popular Costco Sonera Next behind me. This we have at Walmart. I don't think you have any Walmarts there too.
No, it's so sad.
I know, but this one is only 6, 7 pounds. And it's a popular travel one as well. So I feel like maybe some of the people who belong in your group are also in these travel groups on Facebook and whatnot. So just to give them a little background, they might see some of these in a travel group or whatnot. So those are all good options. And thank you for sending that over. So let's answer some questions.
Yeah, so Kylene asked,
okay.
I understand that very young babies aren't meant to be. What is the recommendation with babies on a longer flight? Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a really great question. It's a very popular question that we get. So that's right. We really want to look at this with air travel pretty individually. So it's true that we don't want to use car seats for an extended time. But when you're on the aircraft, it's a little bit different than if you are in the vehicle, because you're sitting right next to your child. You have a visual on them at all times. We don't, just like anybody in the vehicle, we should be getting up and stretching regularly, even adults. So we don't want to keep the child in a car seat on an overnight long haul flight. We do want to make sure that we're removing them when the seatbelt sign is off and giving them a diaper change or a feeding or a stretch break pretty regularly. So of course, younger infants who are more susceptible to chin to chest or oxygen desaturation, they will require more attention. But for older children, 2 hours stretch break and then keep a good visual on them. But the safest way to do this is keep them in the car seat on the airplane and just give them a stretch break every couple hours.
Okay, thank you. We have one more question. I will be flying with our one month old newborn soon. Any recommendations for taking off and landing while the baby is not in the bassinet?
Yes, absolutely. So this is another really good question that I'm going to lead into a little bit of a side conversation here. So any recommendations for takeoff and landing while he's not in the bassinet? So bassinets are not child restraint systems. They are only intended for use when the seatbelt sign is off, as you've noted here in your question. So I appreciate you asking this. Takeoff and landing will depend on the airline that you are flying on. Some airlines will provide you with what we call a supplemental belt loop, which is not a seatbelt. the way that we think of seatbelts. It is an attachment, a web attachment. It's red actually for the most part. And it loops around the adult's airplane lap belt. So your child sits in the supplemental lap belt on your chest, and we have the same issue as Greg noted with the placental abruption. What happens during impact, and takeoff and landing are very critical flight times, so we want to be very mindful of takeoff and landing. But when you have a child sit on your lap, an infant sit on your lap, during impact, the adult will fly forward with the force of impact, essentially crushing the infant. And it makes the infant act as the adult's airbag. Just like Craig mentioned, with the moving forward can cause a placenta abruption. So what do we do in that situation? Well, supplemental belt loops are not intended for the safety of the child. We have a lot of research that shows us and concludes that supplemental belt loops are exceptionally dangerous for infants because they sit right on the infant's abdomen and lead to a great risk for injury. That is why they are not permitted on US domestic airlines or in Canadian domestic airlines. So we've banned them. But depending on the airline you're flying during your international travels, you might be given one of these belts. If you are given one of these supplemental belt loops, use it only when you're instructed to use it, and don't use it any other time. So during takeoff and landing, if you're handed one, use it. As soon as the seatbelt goes on, remove your child from it. That is my recommendation. Other than that, you just hold your child loose on your lap, just right there. So that's what we would do when you're not in the bassinet. But just be mindful also that the bassinet's not a proper child restraint either. They're really, really great for like infants when you're flying overnight and you want to do safe sleep on a flat bed. So take advantage of the bassinet while your child still fits in it. But just know the safest way for a child to fly is going to be in their own aircraft seat in a child restraint system.
Thank you. Lily is asking, for babies in long haul flights, is it okay that they fall asleep in the car seat?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's okay if they fall asleep in their car seat, but we want to be mindful. We want to be attentive. We want to keep eyes on them. We want to keep a visual on them. So it's totally normal to see children sleeping in their car seat on an overnight flight or a long flight. That's all right, as long as you're being attentive and watching and monitoring them.
Yeah, just for anyone who's listening and might not be aware. So if your child falls asleep in the car seat, usually, and you're not in a car anymore, it's advised that you take the child out of the car seat. So I think maybe this is what Lily is kind of, maybe this is something that she had heard, and this is why she's asking this question. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So as you just said, Anna, whenever you have an opportunity to remove your child from the car seat and put them in a safe sleep spot, please do so. That is the best practice option. So if you are, perfect example, you get off the airplane and your child's still sleeping in the car seat, and you get off the airplane and you have a bassinet stroller, put them in the bassinet stroller. Don't keep them in that car seat. But when you're confined to the airplane and you have limited options, you can keep them in the car seat for a limited amount of time with a visual and give them a stretch break. Don't let them, sleep overnight for 8, 9, 10 hours in the car seat. We want to be removing them for those stretch breaks.
We have one more question. This is, I'm not sure, maybe as a very experienced traveling mom, answer this question. This is not really safe, well, somewhat safety related. Do infants need to wear headphones on the airplane?
No, not at all. Actually, it's respectfully one of the common myths. No, infants don't need to wear headphones on the airplane. A lot of people think that they might help with an ear pain adjustment, but there's no data or science to back that up. So it doesn't help with adjusting the ears. It's loud, but it's not too loud.
Yeah, I think with adjusting, it helps to maybe give them a bottle. So if they're in the car seat, you can offer them a little bit of a drink of milk.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're ascending or descending, where we're going to have the opportunity. It's actually the eustachian tube that we want to make sure is open, and that's connected to our soft palate. So any chewing or swallowing motion will really help mitigate any ear pain, potential ear pain. So a bottle or a pacifier, if you have an older toddler, just chewing on a snack might help. If you're breastfeeding, wait until the seatbelt sign is off, then remove your infant from the car seat, nurse, put them back in the car seat.
Yeah. And Lily's also asking, on a long haul flight and for toddlers, so not for babies, what is the recommendation or best practice? Should the foldable car seat be removed for the child to lay down and sleep, and put back the car seat while child is awake? So this is for children that are longer and very active, so they're not babies anymore.
No, the answer is we should always keep them in their car seat anytime they are seated in the aircraft seat. And that aligns with the adult best practice as well, right? So anytime we are in our aircraft seat, we also should have our seatbelt our seatbelts on. And that is because of what we refer to as clear air turbulence, which is the type of turbulence that occurs unexpectedly. Typically, clear air turbulence is the most severe turbulence because it is unexpected. So that's where you see adults who aren't restrained in their lap belt, or maybe they're during a food service and the trays go flying all over the place. So anytime the child or adult is seated, they should be properly restrained. That would be the best practice. I sympathize with the kids needing to sleep. I have my own toddler, but the best practice is actually to let him sleep in the car seat and remove him every couple hours for a stretch break. So unfortunately, when we are planning these long haul flights, it's not simple to get an 8 to 10 hour solid sleep. They're going to have to be interrupted a couple times.
Okay. And what did I, yeah, I mean, one thing that a lot of my friends use on airplanes are these inflatable cushions that you put the foot end, and then the baby or the child is allowed to like lie flat. But then where would you put where would you put the lap belt around the neck? Like, it's just, it doesn't make sense at all, I think.
Yeah.
It's a very popular product, and it is very comfortable for the child, but yeah, the safest thing is the car seat.
It's true. And that's another really great point that you mentioned. So these inflatable footrests or extended footrests or inflatable beds, they are very popular and they are very trending right now, especially on social media. But they are inherently dangerous. There is no way to safely use these products or safely use the aircraft lap belt while using these products. Anything that encourages a child to lay horizontally on an aircraft seat is considered unsafe. And so we just don't want to use them. Because of this and the safety risks involved, more and more airlines are starting to crack down on them. So we did see a couple years back some trends about the hammock styled beds where you attach it to the tray table and your child can lean on that or put their feet on that. Most airlines have those banned now. Not only did they pose a risk to the infant or the child, they also cause the potential that the tray table or the passenger seat in front could break because we're adding weight that shouldn't be there. So those have mostly been banned. The inflatable beds are forthcoming. So we see more and more airlines just not permitting them. A lot of the time to remember too is that they need to be, when they are allowed, they need to be in the window seat position, as do car seats for the most part. We never want to have a car seat blocking any passenger's emergency egress, including another adult. So that's a topic that I discuss a lot also, because it's, well, my dad will sit in the window seat, but we don't want to block dad's egress either. So when you are preparing for your flight and you're intending to bring a car seat on board, choose a window seat. We also want to avoid the exit rows or forward, aft, behind the exit rows. And then just also keep in mind for anybody listening, if you are considering, check out the bulkhead seats. There are pros, there are cons. Most of the time, I do not recommend bulkhead seats for car seats because they often have inflatable seatbelts and or non-removable armrests. So that's something to consider as well.
And that's the same for, I think, some premium economy, right?
That's true, yeah.
Lily is also asking, the options showed for car seats in planes are also suitable for cars after the flight, right?
Yeah, so the Wavy Pico is, yes, the FAA CARES harness, this special harness is not okay for the vehicle. We cannot use this in the vehicle. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But there are many car seats that can be used. The majority, I should say, the majority of car seats available on the market in the United States can be used on the airplane. Now, when we're talking about European seats, they're not always approved for aircraft. So it's really important to speak with a child passenger safety technician to see what will work for your trip.
So because I'm German, like I know, for instance, if I go onto the Lufthansa website, they will give a list of car seats that are allowed to be used on Lufthansa aircrafts. And, you know, it's I mean, in comparison to how many car seats exist around the world, it's a small list. I mean, of course, it's a long list,
Yeah.
but, you know, in comparison to what options are worldwide, it's quite restrictive. Leah, can you tell us, like, also, for instance, if I now have chosen a car seat that works with the airline, am I allowed as a visitor to use that car seat? Like, if I use, for instance, a European approved car seat on a Lufthansa flight that is in line with the Lufthansa, and then, but I'm actually flying to the US, can I use that car seat in the US or no?
Another great question, Anna. This one is the answer is no. Legally, no, you cannot. When you come into the United States, you need to be using an FMVSS S213 certified car seat. Same thing if I go from, the United States into France or Italy or the UK or where have you, I need to be using a car seat that's compliant in those countries. However, there are things to consider on this conversation, and this is a conversation that I prefer to have one-on-one with a caregiver to really understand what their trip itinerary looks like and what all of their options are. For the most part, it's understood that when people are traveling internationally, it's largely accepted to use a foreign car seat for visitation. There are risks to doing it. There are risks to not doing it. So this is a conversation, and I do have a resource and a guide for this that I'm happy to share. But I don't want to give a non-answer. The answer is you have to really be using a compliant car seat, but it's just not realistic all of the time. So we like to just look at it on a case-by-case basis. In our industry, and I've got two other techs on the call here, so they're happy to unmute and add into this conversation here. But in our industry, we haven't ever seen anybody be fined for using a foreign car seat during travel. Not that it doesn't happen and not that it could not happen in the future. But for the most part, we want you to be very comfortable using your car seat when you're traveling because we want to install it correctly and we want to make sure that we're using it correctly. And like I said, there's cons to doing it, there's cons to not doing it. So it really should be discussed with a child passenger safety technician for your specific trip and your family.
Okay, thank you so much, Leah. Yeah, so it's very, well, it's complicated and it's not complicated. The difficulty is
that was it.
Every
That
airline
was
is
a tough.
different and every destination is different, right? So
Right.
Hi,
I'm gonna put
hi,
some links
Leah.
here. Hey, Heidi. Thanks for jumping in. I'm like, that's
Sure,
tough one.
sure. I think you provided a wonderful answer. I would also suggest a parent who is going to rent a car to take a look at the instructions in that car. I know that many vehicles around the country, dissimilar to in the United States, have very specific seats which allow you to install a car seat, and others that do not allow you to install a car seat. And the actual differences that we would discuss as technicians, as you know, are you are putting one standard of car seat into another standard, which is the car. They haven't been crash tested together. So the technicality is obviously they're not compatible, but that is, I agree with you, not always a realistic choice when you're traveling.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, you could even bring your American car seat to Europe, and then you get into the vehicle and you're like, wait, my car seat doesn't even work with this car. It can't be installed, and it doesn't happen often, but it can happen. So it's really just, we want to cross all of our T's and dot all of our I's, and it's just so specific to the family and their travels and their child's age, and it's, yeah, every trip is different. But the wonderful thing is that there are people, resources, there are places to ask questions, there's, places to get help. So even if it seems intimidating, it's not. Just reach out, and we can definitely help.
Can you address one more time, Leah, if a family has a child who is of booster age, what are they to do on a plane?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, we didn't talk too much about booster age children. So boosters are not permitted for use on aircraft anywhere, any aircraft in the world. And there are two reasons for this. The first and most obvious is that boosters require a lap belt and a shoulder belt, which most commercial airlines don't have the shoulder belt in the standard seating classes. So we can't use it for that reason. And then additionally, the booster actually will raise a child up high on the aircraft seat. And because the aircraft seats are designed to flex forward with impact, and I can show you a video of this right now, the aircraft seatbelt actually does damage on the child's spine there. So we want to avoid booster seat. So what do? Let me see. I'm going to show you how the aircraft seatbelt's flexing forward. So that would be, this is a video of a lap held infant on an airplane.
Oh my gosh.
So just to show you though that the seat is flexing forward there, what do you do? So you talk to a child passenger safety technician, you figure out a booster that you can bring on board with you. You put it either in the seat in front of you or perhaps even in the overhead bin, depending on the aircraft that you're flying and depending on what booster you have. And then you just carry it onto the plane. You don't use it on the plane. And then you have it with you for your travels.
Oh, I have one more question, and then I think we have to wrap it up because it's 1 hour. But if for whatever reason, I mean, you're taking your car, like what we often do is we take our car seat, but then it's not approved for the airline, so we have to actually check it in. What's the safest way for the car seat, if it's not in the cabin, to travel? Because I know that car seats are not supposed to be knocked or thrown around. They're not allowed to be, fallen on the floor. Like, would you take them up to the gate and then hand it to them, or would you check it in this oversized, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're checking your car seat, we want to keep it in mind that the car seat is a life-saving device and it needs to be treated as such. So we really want to maintain the integrity of the car seat as much as we can. So when we are checking it, we want to make sure that it is in a secure and padded bag or box. Ideally, we would check the car seat in the original cardboard box that it came in. Also not very practical because how many of us keep those cardboard boxes? The second best option would be to see if your car seat manufacturer has a warranty travel bag. So some of the brands are offering those now that they like Uppa Baby and Nuna. You could purchase a travel bag from the manufacturer, and it comes with an additional extended warranty against damage during your travels. So that's another really good option. And then third, yeah, just a secure and padded bag or box. I have a bag here. There are lots of bags available on Amazon. This is not one that I would consider a secure and padded bag or box. This is what I say is a duster bag. So I think it's $20 on Amazon. It's great. It says handle with care, but there's no protective quality to it. So that's not the best option. Secure padded bag or box. And then I do believe that bringing it to the gate mitigates the risk of damage over counter checking it. So counter checking it is where you would walk into the airport before you go through security. You drop it off at that first counter. I always advise caregivers to walk it through the airport, bring it to your gate, and then gate check it from there.
Thank you so much, Leah. And this is it. We don't have any more time. The hour's up. Thank you so much to our fantastic, phenomenal guest experts. Thank you so much for your time and for all the resources and your knowledge. And I'm forever grateful. Yes, for anyone who's listening and who liked it, I will post the recording soon, and please share it with your friends so that, you know, we can share, we can make community safer, basically. So thanks everyone, and see you soon.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you so much for everybody attending here.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
All right. Good night. Bye.